when we did Indestructible, he was ready to not have that safety net of a producer. And so it was a matter of convincing, our label and everybody else that we can do it on our own, that we actually have been doing a lot of it on our own already. Not to take away from Johnny Kaye, who was a great producer, did a great job on all 3 records, and we learned a lot from him. But when Dan was ready to kind of do it himself, he showed that he can. And then obviously Indestructible was a great success, and so it was a no-brainer going into Asylum that we were going to do it again. And that's not to say we won't someday use an outside producer maybe to come in, but right now it doesn't seem too needed. We've become more streamlined, more self-contained than ever.
Okay, awesome. Speaking of Asylum as well, how would you say that reflects on the earlier material? Because I've sort of read I've read Dave say it's a return back to sort of Believer era, sort of Disturbed.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. It depends, boy, we don't know so much about, there's not a pre-thought way of how the music's going to roll. So, a lot of it has to be judged after the fact. I think that there are a lot of Believe aspects to Asylum as far as musical melody-wise. And also what David's singing. There's a lot of melody on this record that Believe was known for. But, David still has that aggressive attack that makes him him. And that's all over the Asylum record too. I think to me the biggest difference that makes Asylum stand out or makes it its own thing from the other records is a lot of it has to do with what David's writing about lyrically. I think he's writing less cryptic, more specific. A lot of his lyrics now are very specific about events in his life, and he's always had the ability to write in broad strokes. And it seems like he is doing a little finer attention to detail lyrically on this record.
Oh, great. Because, sorry, just blank for a second. Yeah, because it seems to me as well like the band, the name Disturbed always came from sort of this feeling that the feeling of how disturbed the band was with society. Is that something that sort of, I think, you think's persisted with sort of the ethos of the band?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the way people, process feelings of loss, loneliness, despair, pain, these are powerful emotions, and that's a theme through what Disturbed does. It's about those emotions, letting them out, and then of course having that moment to overcome them, and that's kind of, I feel like, is a little emotional blueprint of what Disturbed does musically.
Because, I mean, you guys were, I suppose, somewhat have been lumped in with new metal at one point there, which, and you guys have come out and said, it's more hard rock, heavy metal, or whatever you're gonna call it. But it seems to me that even if you weren't musically a new metal band, there was sort of some sort of association with that sort of movement, just in terms of, I think what you guys were playing was a modern take on what had come before, and it seems to resonated with the youth of the time, and still does with the youth of now, like 15 years later. And I suppose, is it important for you guys to stay contemporary all the time? Are you sort of thinking? Are you thinking about sort of how the music relates to now?
Not really. We just do our thing. To us, it's more important to grow as a band. Okay. What have we done? What haven't we done? We don't want to go down the same roads. Dan works very hard at crafting songs that go in different directions, different arrangements, and he doesn't want to write Down with the Sickness, over and over. He just doesn't want to go down that road. So he's always challenging himself to write things that he's never done before. But what's funny is by the time Mikey's drums get on there, my bass gets on there, and David's vocals get on there, it all of a sudden becomes a Disturbed song again. The sound never goes away, as hard as we try to push ourselves to go beyond that. And, our influences are all over the place, but there's never a conversation of like, oh man, we have to change our sound to stay up with something or other else. It doesn't, none of that matters. And if you start doing that, I think you start chasing something that's not real. And for us, the only thing we're chasing is just being better at what we do.
Because, I mean, you guys have done, in a lot of the albums, you've written, say, like 18 songs and then put 12 of them on the album. There's always been a sort of, I suppose, a cutting back of some songs. Is it a case of just listening to what sort of, I suppose, hits you, what moves you, what actually gets a reaction from you guys as a band to be what sort of you put out there?
You know what? A lot of it actually has to do with, there's some great songs that we've written that have not made it on the record. I mean, we were recording it and I'm like, this will be a single for sure. Yeah. And then it ends up not making the record. And a lot of that's because maybe there's something about it that didn't fit in with the rest of the music. Yeah. And so the reason songs make or don't make a record in the world of Disturbed is not necessarily because the song's an awesome song or not an awesome song. It's does it does it carry the theme of what the record's about?
Does it complement the other songs?
Yeah, yeah, and we try to create a record that has a flow to it that you know you can listen to, and it all sounds like it works together, and you don't have an odd duck. So that has a lot to do with why a song does or doesn't make a record.
Fantastic. And so what are your plans now after this run of touring? Is there any plans to record again soon, or is it just sort of more touring?
Well, you know, we're in the middle of our album cycle right now. The record came out in August, and we'll tour all the way to August. And at that point, you know, we'll have been out a year. We'll have had the opportunity to go to Europe a couple times, come over here to Australia, New Zealand, tour the States a couple times, and we go up into Canada now too. So we've had the opportunity to take it around the world, and then we'll decide then if we're, you know, we'll take a little break, and then we'll decide if we're going to jump right into another record or maybe take a longer break. You know, the band's put out 5 records in 10 years' time. Breakneck pace. Considering that we spend a year of each, you know, we spend a year touring each time a record comes out. Well, we have to make time at some point to make the record and write it.
Life, you know?
And have a life beyond that, you know. Exactly. You know, 3 of us are married with kids. David is engaged. So yeah, as well as have a life, you know. And as you get older, no, we're not getting tired of what we do. We love what we do. But as you get older, there's other things in life that matter that you need to fill, you know, your life with. And just being a single guy running around is not enough. You know, I got to have my family, my kids, to my wife to be a complete person now as I get older. And you know, the other guys feel the same way. So yeah, you have to make time for that other side of whatever it is that you do. So it's definitely a balancing act, you know, and it has nothing to do with us being lazy. We're definitely hard workers and we love what we do. But, you know, we'll see, you know, taking little breaks is what kind of keeps us sane. So hard to tell you exactly what's going to happen when we close our touring doors in August. You know, we got modes we get in. We get in recording mode, writing mode, recording mode, and touring mode. And right now it's touring mode, and we're not thinking too much about when we're going to go into the other modes.
Fantastic. Anyway, thanks so much, John. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Awesome. Thank you.